Hey guys, welcome to episode number 4 of the Mind Money Method. It's the first day of August, which I think is the perfect time to kick off a show like this, especially with our guest, Shark Trader. Fresh month always brings a new opportunity to learn, see what we did last month, see what we can do better. And it's a very notorious month. We're gonna dive into that a little bit deeper. So very excited. We have a lot to discuss today, and let's get this thing started. All right, welcome guys. I am seeing some Shark Tank fans out here. Yes, we do have Shark Trader joining us. Super excited to learn from him. Just to go over actually some of the things that we are going to discuss. We're going to discuss his background as a trader. I know he came from momentum swing trading and then transitioned into options. So super excited to dive into that because that's an area I'm very curious about myself. We're going to discuss some of the different strategies, how to look at price action, and then sort of just the market sentiment, especially going into August. And definitely going to touch on some trading psychology as well, because it's very important. Regarding this month, oh, I see somebody saying Bitcoin in the chat. So last Sunday, actually, if Bitcoin does anything today, I need you guys to tell me live on the show, like keep reminding me. We had a really nice Bitcoin boom last week. And so we want to see if we can do it again and kind of say, yeah, this show brings good Bitcoin vibes and awesome things happen. So let's see if we can get Bitcoin up by the end of the show. If that happens, y'all keep me posted. We are kicking off the first day of the month, August. And I'm sure a lot of you guys have been hearing, you know, whether you're a newer trader or you've been trading for a while, August is a bit notorious for not being a great trading month. I wasn't that active August of last year, so I'm not quite sure. But, you know, between it not being one of the strongest months from what people say, and then the fact that we've got things like the Delta variant, you know, that conversation's heating up. We've got inflation, deflation. There's a lot of conversations going on right now that are creating some noise and a little bit of doom and gloom about August. But, you know, I think mindset's everything, and we're not going to get fearful about it. My personal strategy is to sort of focus on really solid setup. So definitely a less is more type of strategy. I want to know what you guys are doing. I want to know if you're buying a lot of stocks, if you're swing trading a ton, or if you're kind of hanging tight for the perfect setups. For me, I'm looking at low risk, high reward trades that I feel comfortable with, or I'm looking at adding stocks that I have high conviction in that are seeing really big pullbacks. So I know last week, you know, I started nibbling into Roblox, Tilray, I started nibbling into, and that was an awesome trade based on earnings last week. And then things like Palantir. And I do want to touch on one stock that we have discussed multiple shows in a row now, and I want to tell you guys what I mean by low risk, high reward. So this is TTOO, which is a bio stock, and this is a trend line from our last show. And it's very hot right now in terms of the sector. I mean, we could just continue this on and you can see that we've held that 101 floor. And if you zoom out, I mean, we haven't really broken below that at all. They do diagnostic testing for things like COVID. They actually do cover all the different variants. And really with this one, how beautifully it's holding the floor. Like this is what I would consider a low risk, high reward setup. So anytime we pull back to about the 101 range, I've been adding to it. Other than that, like I said, am adding to stocks that I like, that I think will come back long term. If we look at Tilray over here, which ended up being an awesome trade, I actually started sort of nibbling in around here when we were seeing that downtrend, because it is a stock that I do think has lots of room. I mean, if you zoom out on the chart to go back up, and we know cannabis stocks have been taking a beating. So it was really awesome to keep loading up. And then we had the great earnings, and really the whole cannabis sector heated up that day. So another thing with this market is I'm not really holding out and being greedy with my profits. That's a really big thing for me. And yeah, I think just continuing to lock profits, and then something like Tilray, if we do that gap fill, since we gapped up, I'll probably keep adding more and look for the next boom. All right. All of that said, I do want to jump into bringing the shark on, because I have also been tinkering with options a little bit. I am mostly a swing trader with stocks, and I started tinkering with options, and I had some really good beginner's luck last week. But I would like to bring somebody on who's seen both sides and gone through the transition and has some really good tips, techniques, and market insight for us. So I go ahead and welcome him on.
Oh,
hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Doing well. Happy Sunday to you.
Happy Sunday. Happy 1st of August.
That's right. Start of the new month.
Starting the new month. How are you feeling about August?
Well, like you were kind of alluding to, typically, a choppy month, but I'm looking forward to it because a lot of times trading through more difficult markets can really actually help us grow as traders. So, I feel like it's, it can be painful, but if you come at it from the right perspective with the right risk management and sizing, it actually can be really a good thing for you in the long run, because then when the market gets hot, you can really pull out some nice profits if you can, trade through this.
Totally.
Yeah.
I think that's something that I've picked up on a lot as well, because like I said, I'm relatively new compared to a lot of people in my trading journey. And it was interesting to start when the markets were super hot and realize, afterwards how much I really had to hone in on the discipline and the strategy. And it's like, it's times like these that sort of define, are we built to last? Are we going to continue? And so it's exciting stuff.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, last summer, I was kind of talking about last summer was more of the exception to the rule. Last summer, everyone was a professional trader. It was so easy. You could call anything and it was, going up and working in your favor. But, normally this is kind of more the market that's a summertime market, as they say. So last time we lucked out with the hot summer, but, we'll see.
Totally.
Yeah, we'll see.
Well, so I want to get started by learning a little bit more about you and sort of your trading journey and what kind of trader that you are.
Sure. Yeah, I think like a lot of people, I came from the small cap world, and was just playing common shares in that realm. But then I started to learn a little bit more about options. A couple of traders told me, you should check out options. You'll love them. But I always felt that they were pretty intimidating. The Greeks and all this, and I didn't know what it meant. But then I just started diving into it like anything, just like with trading. My curiosity sparked me and I started learning and seeing what was important, what was not, and then from there I just fell in love with options, not only for the volatility but for the returns that they can make, and the ability to easy play both sides of the market. So you have, you can look at the market from both perspectives a lot easier, which is also fantastic, making money in, any environment. So yeah, after that I was hooked, and then that was it.
Yeah. So I think, how many years have you been trading?
A little over 4 years now, maybe 4.5.
Okay.
Almost 5, yeah.
And options
I'm losing track. Yeah. Maybe about half that or a little bit. Yeah, I would say. Yeah,
so
I
about
waited
half
a little
of that.
bit. Yeah, I waited a little bit before getting into it. Some people dive right into the options world. I don't know if one way is better than the other, but I think it's better to learn how to trade a little bit first because they're a little bit more intense. But Yeah.
For sure. Well, so that's what I want to ask you about because, I've started tinkering with options a little bit. I've been trying to learn. And like you said, it's information overload. Like when
Right.
you're first getting started, it can be very overwhelming between, all the Greeks, the in the money, out of the money, calls,
Right.
puts, spreads. I mean, the verbiage is just a lot. But it is something I'm interested in. A big part of it is what you said, is being able to play both sides of the market.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think that's something that I've picked up on a lot over the last few months when the market's been a little bit trickier, is that it's it's tough navigating a market like this when you're used to only being bullish or when you're only used to swing
Right. Right.
trading.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So I have some questions for you in regards to anyone else that's just getting started in terms of like what the key differences are between swing trading stocks versus options, whether that's risk management, whether that's the kinds of returns that you can see. Like, what are some of the key differences?
Well, I think the returns as far as percentage can be a lot greater, with options, obviously. But I think that as far as swing trading, I think what people often, the biggest mistakes that I see that new traders make is either A, picking a strike that's way too far out of the money, say, just as an example, AMD is trading at 85, or actually it just broke that 100 mark, which was a big thing for the stock. But say it's trading at $90 a share, and people are trying to swing trade weekly calls that are 120 strike or something way far out of the money. um, and that's really going to crush them, because you don't have any intrinsic value to your options. You have to also understand the ATR of a stock, how likely it is to move a certain percentage,
Hmm.
and not giving yourself enough time, taking into account the time decay, because all options, if you're long or short, have a depreciating aspect to them. So they might get something with a smaller ATR way out of the money with a really close expiration. You're not, the odds are not in your favor, and
Sure.
something like that. So you want to make sure you give yourself enough time, and that you're either at the money or in the money, and that way your contracts have some value, and it's not, they're going to be a little bit more expensive, yes, but just because something is cheap, you're thinking, oh, these 120 calls are 50 cents or something, that's a great deal, that's a bargain, that's not
Sometimes you get
necessarily.
what you pay for,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. That's not always
Yeah,
that's not always the case. The other ones are more expensive for a reason. It's because they are safer. They are more likely to become in the
sure.
money, and yeah. So stop buying the way out of the money calls.
Well, so, and the other thing that is really intriguing to me, like you said, is that you can put forward less capital and see a much greater return than you would if you were just swinging shares of a stock,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah, definitely. This is a little bit more of a risky play, but we had a trader in my room recently who put, I think it was a $600 investment, and then he came out with about an $8,000 profit overnight. And that's something that, yeah, that's
Well
something.
done.
Now it was a bit of a more risky play, not something that I would necessarily, encourage, but
Sure.
that's the kind of situation. I mean, for that kind of risk 600 to get 8,000. I mean, that was a best case scenario, of course,
Totally.
um, but yeah, and that's also another reason why I fell in love with it. I mean, the returns are just so much greater, for less of risk,
Well,
which
and
can be good for small accounts, but yeah.
sure, sure. They remind me of, because like I said, I tinkered with some calls last week and they did really well between Roblox and Tilray and Palantir. And, the market's been a little shifty, but to see 90% gains, 120% gains so quickly.
Right.
Granted, I knew it was, a little bit of beginner's luck. You still have a lot to learn. It's not always going to be like this, but it was nice to see that sort of percentage so fast. It reminded me a little bit of trading OTCs. because I do really, really like trading OTC stocks as well. And it's sort of like when you're an OTC trader, or you trade crypto or maybe even options, you're not, if you're down in like regular stocks, 5 or 10%, people are panicking. They're
Right,
like, oh my
right,
God, I'm so down. But if you're used to these other markets, you're like, oh, I'm down 30% here. It's okay. And then it'll just go back up, or
right,
there's a
right.
lot more
Yeah.
volatility.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that was also one of the things that was really hard for me at first, and can be hard for a lot of new traders, is that transition into managing risk a little bit.
Hmm.
Because yeah, now whenever if I ever do step back into the small cap world, like you were saying, I'm down. Um, like you said, 8% or 7%. I said, oh, this is nothing. This is a walk in the park. I've been down 35% in a position in an
Totally.
option, and that's but which I think can actually help your share game a little bit, because um, you kind of I don't know why I'm thinking of this, because it's kind of out there, but it also kind of has to do with I don't know if you ever seen that documentary about the rock climber who climbed
I haven't, but I know which
Eason.
one you're talking about.
Right, right. Well, they were doing MRI scans of this guy's brain, and over time, it seemed like he trained the fear areas in his brain, got used to
Mm.
so much stress, and actually, kind of, adapted to it, where he could be up 3,000 feet, whatever the case is, on a rock without a harness, and he was completely calm, and had a calm state of mind. Whereas if they threw me or you up there, I would be, I would, yeah, no, it's not going to work out.
Totally.
So it's the same kind of thing where it helps you adapt to being uncomfortable, and which
For
which can
sure.
um, which can help. Yeah.
Well, it's the whole, I believe in that in terms of trading too, like get comfortable being uncomfortable. Like
Oh
no
yeah,
longer have it
100%.
be a state of mind that throws you off, but just, accepting uncertainty, accepting risk, and knowing that whether you prefer to go more low risk or high risk, there is risk in everything.
Yeah, yeah. Well, in order to be right, you have to risk being wrong. So,
Totally.
and there's nothing wrong with
Totally.
that. I think that traders often, they are obsessed with being right, or and a big thing to overcome is that attachment, that obsession with being right, because you don't
Right.
have to be right all the time. There's nothing wrong with being wrong. That's a part of the game. That's going to happen to the best traders. It's just that's fine. I mean, but people
Yeah,
are
I don't
so obsessed with it.
I don't know if I believe the ones who claim they're right all the time. I don't think that's possible. I mean,
No, it doesn't happen.
yeah, yeah, that doesn't happen. So I do want to ask, in terms of swing trading versus options, do you find that the market sentiment can affect like which one's more ideal for somebody who's maybe doing a combination, or someone who's in a certain type of market and is struggling and is looking to bring on a new strategy?
Well, I actually, because there are strategies like spreads, selling contracts, that get a little bit more complicated, which people definitely trade just along these strategies, where an option doesn't even have to move. You can make money if it's just going sideways, which are a little bit more complex. And I feel like that's where traders can also get a bit overwhelmed. I personally like to keep it simple, so I just play more directional type trades. But um, but really, you know, when it's choppy, it definitely can be a little bit harder swinging, and that's why, in that kind of swinging options. But that's why I would always suggest giving yourself enough time on whatever contracts you're picking. And of course, there's also the difference between if you're day trading. I mean, usually in a choppy market, swing trading probably might not be the best unless you're really careful, because you're going to have a lot of that up and down volatility. A day
Hmm.
you're down 25-30%, the next day you're maybe down 15%, maybe up 4%, then back down 20% again the next day.
Yeah.
That's a lot to deal with emotionally. But if you have enough time on your contracts, like I said before, if you're closer to in the money or at the money, you're going to experience a little bit less of that volatility. Um, so yeah.
Well, and everyone who's tuning in right now, whether you trade options currently or it's something that you're interested in learning about, I do want to hear from you guys. Hit the like button. Let's get the likes up on this. And if you have any questions, I want you to start thinking about them, because we will definitely have a Q&A at the end of this, and we're going to pick some of these out, and we'll dive into Shark's brain and see what he can teach us. Um, that said, if you had to do a quick and dirty, what should beginners know about options? If somebody is watching this and saying, wow, that's intriguing. I have been struggling with this market the last few months. I need to diversify. I'm not sure how to tackle it. What is your advice to somebody who just wants to get started?
I think, what I kind of touched on before, as far as, well, first, I mean, you have to know really if you're trying to day trade or swing trade. That would be, kind of the first question, because it could be two different answers. For swing trading, definitely giving yourself the time on your contracts would be the big thing. But for me, all the Greeks have different kind of weight and their importance. But, for day trading, really I'm looking at, the delta on a options contract. I'm looking at, the theta, the time decay, how much the contract depreciates over time. And the biggest thing is, while you're starting, either start in the simulator to feel how they move, to get used to the options personality. And when you start trading in, the real account, just trade small. Like we said, you don't have to risk a lot to, get a nice return. So there's nothing wrong with taking 1-2 contracts and getting used to how it feels, dealing with the volatility. I think the biggest mistake is they also go into heavy. They play it like shares. They'll put, they've got a $15,000 account, and they'll put in $5,000 or some, big amount, $3,000, and then they're down 30%. That's going to really hurt. And it's not going to be like that being down 5% or 4% in a stock and in a small cap. So, I think the sizing is really important as you're learning, because, obviously in a paper trade, you're not going to get the same psychological,
Sure.
Pain or the psychological aspect to it, but you're going to learn about which are the better contracts to pick. Which ones have good liquidity. You always want to see the volume on the contract. You don't want to be trading options that have 300 contracts traded on the day or something like that. You want nice liquid options. So I would really just say take it slow and don't really get enticed by the Wall Street bets. I took super far out of the money calls and I made $23,000 overnight on something, because that's not trading. That's not a strategy that has any type of longevity. Yeah. Those people more than often blow up within the next couple of trades, because that just never
you want something sustainable.
Yeah. So sizing and, playing the safer contracts, which might net you a little bit of a lower return, but are going to save you in the long
run. So let me ask you this, though. It's still just as important to scale in as if you would when buying regular shares, right? Scaling in and scaling out of your positions with options.
Yeah. It's the whole adding to a loser is a dangerous concept for a lot of new traders, because you might say, I'm going to risk $2,000 on this position or whatever the case might be. And then you start adding to a loser, and next thing you know, you're in 5K and it's still going against you. And, it can become a very, very ugly, situation. So it kind of goes into a little bit of the trading psychology aspects that I've been thinking about recently. And that is, if you think about, what what are the statistics for new traders success rate? I think it's what, 75, 85% are winning traders, are actually profitable.
That's more generous than
So
I thought. Yeah.
yeah. Well, I've seen some that say 90, so
Yeah.
I'm trying to be nice, give people some hope because it is possible. But uh, the problem is now, you know, if 95 or 85%, we'll just call it 85, are losing, um, why is everybody continuing to think like this 85%? So, that's the big thing. That's kind of also why I personally kind of like to be a contrarian when it comes to the market. Because, I'm not interested so much in what the textbooks teach because they've taught 85% of traders to be losers. So I'm really focusing on developing a mindset and strategies that bring me in the 5%. That's where I want to be focusing, not what everyone else is doing, because it's clearly, I mean, people more than often or not are, statistically are losers. So that's the big thing. So I normally don't. I sometimes do add to losing positions, but I normally don't. The thing, the real pros, the real people that are really successful, how many, and I'd love to know, is to train yourself to add to the winners. um you
To
know
do the
tr-
opposite of your instinct, which is to
oh
average
yeah.
down. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I've found that often traders are fearful when they should be hopeful, and they're hopeful when they should be fearful. And
Hmm.
that's in direct contrast to what we've kind of been taught. We see a stock down and we're all thinking like it's a bargain. That's what we want to think, this kind of
It's a bargain.
wall.
It's a bargain.
Yeah,
It's a
exactly,
bargain.
a
Yeah.
Walmart, a type of Walmart's philosophy.
Yeah.
But it's you want to go discount shopping, but that goes into being hopeful when you should be fearful, and you're hoping that it's going to bounce. So I've really been focusing on recently trying to think more like the 10% rather than doing what the textbooks and everything teach you, because it's clearly, I mean, if you ask most people, they're not winning, so
Sure.
um, yeah.
Sure. Yeah, I think what you just touched on, King Blamey and I, we discussed that on last week's show. It is a lot of our instincts to continue averaging down, down, down. And I think there's a difference between dollar cost averaging on a high conviction play versus just these are my 15 swing trades. They're all bleeding. I'm just going to keep averaging down. I think it's different. High conviction plays, those should be a very select amount of setups. They should not be a majority. It should be, whatever that means to you, a couple, two or three, whatever, but not a bunch of stocks that you're just averaging down on. And, a lot of our instincts is not to continue to add to a trade as it's starting to go up. But that a lot of times is just the stock going in the trend that you were anticipating. So it's funny
Exactly.
that we
Yeah.
don't want to add at that point.
No, it's human nature. That they
Yeah.
say, you never go broke taking a profit. Well, how many people are broke taking a profit early? And
Right.
it's a big,
It's a balance.
more people are broke taking the profit early. And that's the biggest thing also that, I've kind of set myself up working on this whole year, was letting my runners run. And I think that's
Mm.
really the next step in an evolution in a trader. As long as you're riding those short-term EMAs, the trend is in your favor. There's no reason to sell. But just as humans, we want to take that profit right away. Why? Because our human brain is wired to run away from pain. And what would pain be? Oh, if we were up $1,000 and then the stock goes against us, and then we're up 700. Oh
Mhm.
God, pain, pain, pain. But the pros would add on that day, because this trend is still going on, and it's also why a lot of traders also they're looking at these short time frames. 3-minute charts, 5-minute charts, not even looking at the daily, not looking at the 4 hour, the 1 hour, looking at the bigger picture, about what's really going on. But truly, the mind is the most detrimental thing to your trading. We're almost hardwired to lose at trading.
Right. I think one thing I've thought to myself before is anytime you feel a big emotional gut instinct to do something, kind of take pause and consider the
Oh yeah.
opposite.
Oh
Because a
yeah.
lot
Yeah.
of times, if you are getting worked up and you are about to make a decision based on that, just take pause a few seconds, a couple minutes, rethink it, and then don't go into that emotional action. And it usually ends up being the better decision, I found.
Yeah, completely. And it kind of goes into something, that I think is important for a lot of traders to realize, is confirmation bias. There's a Latin term for this. They call it apothenia. And your mind, will basically create patterns or um, links between random bits of data that actually have nothing to do with each other. So, you have a certain point of view, and your mind is going to trick you into seeing it to your perspective, how you want to see it,
Absolutely.
and not what the market is doing. Your mind is going to say, "Oh, this is making we've gotten above this indicator, or this is happening." When the
Right.
trend is clearly down. Whatever
Right.
side. If you're playing the long side. So we're designed to perceive patterns and connections on meaningless data, that they're not really related. And
Right.
we see things, we don't see things as they are. We often see them as we are, you know not
I
what
believe
was
that.
really not as what is really in front of us. So when I get in a trade, I'm often automatically thinking, how am I wrong in this trade? Even when I'm in, I'm looking at that and thinking, hey, what's the opposite? What is a bear thinking
I
right
love
now?
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that because I think a lot of people, I think just via social media, you see them get a little disheveled when somebody's bringing up something about another stock that's not inherently bullish. And
Oh
it's
yeah, yeah,
just,
yeah.
people get so worked up. And I think, like you said, it's super important to know, you know, what are the chances of an upside? What are the reasons we could see more downside? And I think being aware of all of that just makes you a better trader instead of being married to the potential of a stock.
Oh yeah, yeah, totally. And I think what you tapped on earlier is really important about taking that step back. I think another thing in trading is having self-awareness, and I think it's something that a lot of traders don't give enough credit to, because when you're in the middle of a trade, the markets are so enthralling, or they suck you in so much, and you're
Yeah.
right in on the market. And I like to have a trading checklist that I will look at. You can even set a timer, on your phone. If you set up what is my state of mind? Am I feeling FOMO? Am I revenge trading? I like to step back, and
Hmm.
I've been coming up with an acronym for myself. Everyone might have bad trading habits that they can kind of, what are your bad trading habits? One of mine can be revenge trading sometimes. So
Yeah. Guilty
I have,
sometimes.
yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
So I have, and that's always when you lose more money, trading on something like
Absolutely.
that.
It works
So
out maybe 1 out of 10 times. And that
right,
one
right.
time does not make up for the other 9 times. That's what I've
No,
found.
no. And the problem is that it will actually trick you and make you think that it worked out, so this is a winning strategy,
Right.
but it never is.
It's not.
um but yeah, but having a checklist for yourself to step back from the market and say, okay, how am I feeling emotionally? Am I feeling riled up? Am I calm? What's going on out, if you're trading from work, what's going on at work. When I used
Yeah.
to trade from when I had a job and I traded like that, if my boss or I had a project or someone was yelling at me and then I was trying to trade from my phone, I might make a mistake, or if I was having a
Absolutely.
problem with a significant other and we had a fight in the morning and then I was at work trying to trade or whatever, I might make more stupid mistakes. I didn't, even as far as something as simple as I didn't get enough sleep, the next morning
It's critical.
could
Yeah.
throw you off the next morning,
Yeah.
because it's a performance based job, and you have to be at your top performance all the time. But you have to have that awareness to be able to step back and assess how you're feeling in this moment. Am I in the best mental state to be doing my best trading? Because you've worked hard for your money. Why are you going to risk anything, if you're not in that best state? So it's,
I think that's everything you touched on is incredibly important because there's so many different factors that dive into it. I actually have been meditating in the mornings. I try to be consistent. I'm
oh
not
yeah,
always, but the way that I see a morning meditation is I wake up and I have like 100 tabs open in my brain, just like on a browser when you have too many and you're overwhelmed and you just want to shut it all down. When I meditate before getting my day started, I can shut down maybe like 80% of those. So I can go into my day feeling a little bit lighter, a little bit more clear. And, another thing is like if my office area is super messy or
right,
disheveled,
right,
like
right.
little things like that, sleep, like you said, anything that's going on with work, significant others, it all mindset matters. And if you're not in the best mental state, you're probably not going to have your best performance. I fully agree with that.
Yeah, and I saw you. I think you posted a poll, online about some, kind of things that traders were struggling with or they were thinking about. And one of the
I'm
things
going to
on
pull that
there,
up actually. Yeah. Let
yeah,
me pull
one of
that
the
up.
things I think I saw in there that people were looking for strategies and more information about technical analysis. And, honestly, that's not what they should be thinking about. The charting and technical analysis is easy. That's the easiest part. That's like that nothing. The whole game is mental. And if you can't have self-awareness, if you can't, tackle those psychological challenges, you're not going to be a winning trader. And that also has to do with breaking yourself away, as I was saying before, from thinking like 85, the 85% of traders, which is what is taught, to everyone. And breaking away from that kind of typical, mindset. So yeah, that was the other one right there. I know I saw that people were really over trading was another thing that people were talking about, and
Yeah.
that's another thing. I mean, you don't have to always be in a trade, especially coming into this month. What I would really suggest is sizing down, watching, observing more. Looking at what the market is telling you rather than what you want to tell it. And I definitely like this trade this next month. I mean, I'm planning on cutting down, really being more picky on my entries,
Hmm.
and kind of just chilling out. I mean, this is, don't chop yourself up in this market and get back, because I've seen the summer multiple times, like with traders that I work with. Always during the summer, I'll see 3, 4, or 5 people either blow up their accounts or stop out, or take a break, and
For sure.
because they're taking too many losses. um, don't overtrade and be in that category. Just, you don't always have to be in a trade. I don't know. I've kind of gotten to a point where I'm like, past that. But and I wish I could give some kind of advice that would be like really easy for people to,
Yeah.
digest on how not to do it. But the market's always going to be here. Just so
It's
you don't,
always going to be here.
yeah. So just, don't, it's like, I also when the market gets like this too, it's like, stop, you want to trade also too, or put on size when the market is easy. You don't want to be squeezing blood from a stone and trying to get water from it when it's super
Sure.
hard. There's just no reason to be putting on big weight, or, or doing anything like that. You're just going to hurt yourself.
Well, and I actually spoke to a lot of traders who told me that this year, if they had actually just sat out on a lot of trades for the last few months, because ever since about mid-February, everything got a little bit trickier. that their account would be in better standing if they had literally just done nothing.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I always think about that in regards to over trading, because I think you also have to keep in mind one thing my friend and I always talk about is like the market is not here for your entertainment. Are you bored? Do you need something to do? Go watch a movie. Go meet up with some friends. Like, go walk your dog. The market is not here. I think sometimes there's this like sense of thrill and a chase and like a constant need for action. And it actually it makes me think of Adam Sandler in Uncut Gems. Like he's just creating more problems for himself every time.
Yeah,
It's
he
like,
pawns. He gets the watch, or no, the ring from the basketball player, and then he goes pawns the
and then he
ring that he
creates
doesn't
more
own.
problems.
Yeah, oh god.
100%. So if your trading has you feeling like Adam Sandler in Uncut Gems, it's time to reconsider how you trade. That's my philosophy. We are seeing some amazing questions coming in through the chat. We will get to all of those shortly. If you are tuned in, make sure to hit the like button. Keep sending your questions in. Shark, I do have a question for you. So there has been a lot of noise regarding the Fed, inflation or deflation, depending on who you're speaking to, the Delta variant. There's a lot of uncertainty in terms of the state of the market. And somebody specifically asked for this question, which I think is a great one. It's regarding, you know, options and sort of market sentiment. Do you suggest anybody buying long-term puts in anticipation of a deeper pullback before that correction gets priced in? What are your thoughts there?
Well, picking tops can be a dangerous game. You can certainly make a good amount of money, if you're right and limit your risk. The thing is that when you're trying to do something like that, you're going to often be more wrong, than you are right. So if if you're okay with trading, and it's totally possible. I mean, people will often also get really obsessed with a win rate percentage. How many trades am I winning? But I know traders. I know even hedge funds that have a 30% hit rate. So just say 100 trades you do, you're only getting 30 right. Does that sound appealing to anybody? Probably not, because you're gonna probably feel like I'm losing so much, so much. However, they are consistently profitable. And that kind of comes into them managing the risks on when they're wrong and when they are right. But picking tops is a dangerous game. When you're thinking about either inflation or these big macroeconomic moves, it's hard to time them, because we don't know, is it going to be 2 years? Is it going to be, how, if we see a
Right.
pullback? I mean, even me personally, I've kept on thinking, okay, I'm going to put on some more swing trades when the market retests 400. I've been waiting for this retest of 400 for 4 months now, since we were talking
Yep.
about inflation. I've never seen it. We just keep on making all-time highs, and that kind of goes
Totally.
in again to confirmation bias, and the market just keeps on going up. So I mean, why are we gonna think anything else? Every time it comes down, it gets saved. Granted, we are trading in a very unique environment right now, as you were talking about in the beginning of the show, with with obviously with coronavirus, the
Mm-hmm.
economy being shut down, now being reopened, the
It's a bit
inflation
of a
versus
deja
deflation.
vu with the whole COVID situation. Some of it's starting to feel too familiar again.
Yeah. So that's, but um, the market it keeps on making all-time highs. So, I just have to, and the long-term trend has been up. So,
Yeah.
it can kind of be a fool's game to try to pick the top. There's nothing wrong, with having a long-term position. But for me right now, what I like to do when it is more choppy is I'm really more focused on day trading. I'm not too heavy in any swings. I've had a few traders that I work with that were really overexposed to the long side and are getting
Mm-hmm.
chopped out, and it's just better not to have, you don't always have to have 50% of your portfolio in the market, or when it gets like this, 10%, if you do
Sure.
want to be in swings with a little bit of a hedge. But if you have a hedge, you have to be kind of have a sizing that's going to be appropriate, that if you're wrong, you really just have to watch it, because the prevailing trend is northeast at the moment. So you
Yeah.
might get a little 20% win. I mean, and then what's kind of the what's the point? I mean, you get a little 20% win on a pullback that you might have to wait for, and timing it with the options contract. It's just it might
It's
be
better
easier
to
with shares.
play.
It might be
Sure.
easier with shares, going short or buying, inverse bullish ETF or something like that
Hmm.
for a little protection. But that's kind of stuff that's more on, I do also think that, everyone has a long-term portfolio and you have your
Yeah.
trading portfolio. So those are two different kind of also scenarios, what you're trading
Yeah.
and kind of stuff like
And
that. So
the long-term portfolio you don't look at every day, because I hear people
no, you're going to
say,
drive yourself crazy if you do
"Oh, that's in my long-term portfolio," but
that.
then they're looking at price action every 20 minutes, and I'm like,
Yeah, there's no point. No,
you
there's no
can't
point.
have those in the same account. You got to keep it separate. So, um,
Yeah.
yeah, no, I think this has all been great. Guys, if you have questions, we're about to get to those. So go ahead and send them our way. Um, I do have one more question for you. With a lot of traders being in sort of with this market limbo, um, well, based on what we just said in terms of like trying to predict the top, Radio, who's one of my mentors and is absolutely incredible, he always says it is what it is until it isn't. And so constantly trying to look at what is it going to be down the line. I mean, people have been predicting tops for a while now, or a deep rug pull or a pullback. And I think if you go into every trade anticipating that and having that mindset, you're messing with the integrity of your current trades. Because, like you said, there's confirmation bias. You're looking for something specific to happen that isn't necessarily going to play out. So I love the discussion that we just had on that. But I want to know from you, what advice do you have for any traders who are experiencing sort of a one step forward, two steps back in this type of environment?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is if you're dealing with setbacks, definitely size down. Start to take. If you're betting, I don't know, 10 contracts. I'm speaking from an option world, so I'm going to speak in that
Mhm.
nomenclature. But if you're doing 10 contracts, 20 contracts, depending on your account size, bring it down to if you're playing 20, bring it down to 10, bring it down to 5. Don't get overexposed in the chop. Another thing you can do, because obviously when you're down, you want to make back those losses quickly, and it's never a winning game to try to fight the market and to try to win back what you've lost. Um, what you would want to do is size down and then work on building back that confidence over time. You're taking 5 contracts, then moving up to 8. You want to have that market work as hard as it can to take your money. You don't want to just be handing it out
Of course.
as a free-for-all. So I would say stay focused on preserving your capital and not over trading, focusing on your mindset as far as your that working on, again, that confirmation bias, working on trying to not you know give in to the things that your mind basically wants to force you to do. Everything, trading
Yeah,
is just so counterintuitive. So
it really is.
if you're feeling like you should be getting out, then should
You
be
should
holding. If
probably
you're
stay
feeling
in.
like
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're feeling like you should be taking profits, hold it longer, either on the long or the short side. So
Yeah.
having just making sure that you're taking that step back. But I really like that regressive trading strategy. And when I have a couple of losing trades, on my, third losing trade or second losing trade, I'm not putting in double my size. I'm putting in less
Sure.
because I want to give myself the opportunity to get back in sync with the market. If I keep on putting on more size, I'm just going to keep on losing bigger and bigger, and I'm not in sync. I'm going to be, I have, 20 contracts, 50 contracts. My emotional state is going to be all out of whack because I'm going to be down,
Yeah.
$1,000, on a
It's a
15%
domino
move.
effect. I think
Yeah.
people do run through streaks of bad trades that aren't necessarily always in correlation with the market. It's just once you kind of give into the bad habits and you continue to drive that into your next trades without acknowledging what went wrong, I think that's easy to do, which is why a trading journal I think is awesome to have on hand and sort
Yeah.
of go
Yeah.
back and look at your previous trades and pinpoint, okay, what's working for me, what hasn't been.
Yeah, and not only, having the, what I also like about doing the trading journal, for me, and it also goes into the self-awareness thing, is I'm also logging how I'm feeling that day.
Mm.
Even the sleep, all the different variables into that day that either made a great trading day for me or a really bad trading day for me. And I also, really encourage traders to set kind of goals. I feel like, a lot of times traders go into the market, and I like to kind of use a gym, a working out fitness analogy on this. My analogy is a lot of times traders will go, and I'm going to speak in the analogy now. They'll go into the gym, aka the market, and they'll look at the bar, with the 245s or whatever they're going to bench, the 145, whatever they're going to do, and they're going to look at it, they're going to stare at it, and then they're going to think to themselves, they're going to leave the next day, they're going to come back and look at it again and think to themselves, oh man, and try to lift it maybe one time, and then they didn't. And then the next day they're going to leave and come back and do this again for a week. And then after a month, they're going to sit back and how come I didn't get any stronger? How come nothing changed? Um, I went in, just specifically this year, like I mentioned before, saying to myself, okay, this year I want to work on letting my winners run. All traders have a hard time with that skill,
Mm-hmm.
which is, and 85% of the traders are losing. So I want to work on what the
Give or
10% are
take,
doing.
right? That was
Yeah,
your
yeah, yeah,
generous.
yeah. But what the 10% are doing, and what the 10% are doing, are letting the runners run. Not, because most traders, if you look at their stats, they'll have maybe even more winners than losers, but their winners will be 40% or 25% gains, but their losers
Mm.
will be 50% losers. I'm speaking in options, percentages. How
Sure.
mathematically are you going to be able to do that? Survive or be profitable? So, uh, that's the biggest thing, riding that wave, the trend, looking at the longer time frame. There's no reason to get out of the trade. But I am also, so I'm coming in with a goal every day. I'm coming in with a goal on something to work on to improve myself, aka I'm going into the gym and I'm actually going to work out. Why are you going to
Yep.
go into the market, aka the gym, and just stare at the weights and wonder why you're not getting better? It's because you're just going on with no goal, with no purpose. You
Yeah.
got to push yourself and set goals on things you want to improve on. Otherwise, there's, it's not, nothing's going to happen. You're not going to see any returns. You're not going to see any change. So, if you have access, to Thinkorswim, I know it's a popular broker, the one I use. It has the on-demand feature. You can go back and replay old trading days. What do athletes do when they go into, practice? What do NBA players do? Olympians, as we have the Olympics right now. 95% of, their performance on when it's showtime is done for the 10,000 hours that they did outside of the market. And you practice, you can drill on your own. You not only have to, review, but you have to replay the market if you have access to that, and then drill either within the simulator or on demand. I'm not sure if other brokers have replay of the market, but it's something that I've really found that's been helpful. Actually redoing trades, drilling the market, playing it again, in a basketball, getting the pass, doing the alley-oop again and again and again, doing that 50, 100 times. What did Bruce Lee say? I think he's not afraid of the person that knows 100 kicks, but he's afraid of the person that's practiced one kick 100 times.
Mm.
So that's you got to have that mindset of trying to improve each day and setting goals. I'm going to lift that
Yeah.
weight 50 times or whatever.
Have you read Atomic Habits by James Clear?
No, I haven't read that one, but what one I do know that I really recommend or I like, I'll definitely check that out. Is The Power of Habit by Michael
Mhm.
Duhigg. But it's kind of, I think, probably the same kind of thing, and just how humans
How
evolve
they
these different
compound
habits.
too. Like, I think one of his favorite quotes that has always stuck with me ever since I saw him speak and then got his book was, "You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems." So it's the little micro habits, it's the day to day, it's the small stuff that builds up. It's not just like, oh, I have a goal to get my account to 100K. Okay, that
Yeah.
leaves so much gray area on what you're going to do to get there.
Right,
But like
right, right.
small actionable items that don't feel like that much, one day it's the whole concept of little by little becomes a lot. And I'm a firm believer in that. I think if you try to shoot for the stars right off the bat, you get discouraged and you fail. I think if you anticipate the ups and downs and you prepare for it and you have a structure in place, that's how we grow.
Yeah, that's what I tell my traders, all the time. Work on one little thing, even if it's that one last contract, getting it to, if they're struggling with holding a winner past 30%, let's just say,
Hmm.
this week, work on holding that one last runner to 40. Do that for 3 weeks, a month. After you get to that point, then move up to 45%, and so on and so forth. But yeah, and then as far as what you said is about those habits, as far as averaging down, when you do things like that and it does work, you're going to wire your brain in such a
There's a
way that
reward there.
that reinforces a bad habit in the long run, and you don't want to reinforce those bad habits. You want to reinforce the good habits, and that's not what most traders are doing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This has been great. I love all of this mindset, habits, goals, all of that stuff. I think everybody is so focused on the technicals. We don't always get to dive into the side with as much depth.
Yeah,
And
yeah, I saw that on the polls. Everyone wanted a strategy or more stuff on TA, and like I said, that's not
and
what
that's
you guys need.
everywhere,
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
not what is most important. So stop focusing on that. Work on this. That's what's most
Get your
important.
mind right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We are going to dive into some questions before we wrap up. So, guys, if you have questions, go ahead and put them in the chat. But we have one from Martin that says, "What is your typical long call or put percentage gain target on a day or two or 2 to 3 day swing window with options?"
Yeah, that's a great question, and that also kind of goes into letting the winners run. Everyone kind of also talks a lot about risk to reward. I don't, I don't give myself profit targets actually. I let the market tell me when an exit might be a good, it might be a good time to exit. So I don't actually have a percentage or a number like that on a stock. I'm more thinking to myself, how long can I stay in this trade? I'm not, because again, they say no one goes broke taking a profit, but how many people are actually you know broke still, are not winning traders by taking profits too soon, and it kind of goes into, what I was saying before about traders being fearful when they should be hopeful, and they're hopeful when they should be fearful. More
Mhm.
often than not, if you have a winner, you're better off being hopeful that it's going to be continuing in your favor versus having that contrarian. Oh, I need to take these profits. Oh my God,
Absolutely.
because your losers, that whole thing is the reason why traders are holding their losers to 50% losses or 40% losses, and they're taking gains at 30%. You know, because again, it all
Absolutely.
comes down to avoiding pain, and that's, you know, the human mind is against us in every way.
Okay, so I did want to dive into more questions, but we had such a good conversation. We are running this show to the end. I'm going to get one more in. If you could just give me a quick 1 to 2 sentences on it. What do you do every morning to get your mind focused?
Well, I like to, you know, I usually actually go outside. I'll take a couple of breaths outside, go look at the sky, go kind of, or, you know, in my kind of my backyard area, there's some water and stuff. So I might go out back and kind of go look at the water, just kind of take a couple of breaths in, just kind of thinking about, you know, the day, kind of try to visualize how my trading is going to go, try to remind myself of some of those, you know, the rules of, okay, you know, make sure you take a couple of steps back throughout the day. Um, I like to, you know, I certainly drink a couple of glasses of water actually, you know, to kind of make
The
sure
simple
I'm
stuff.
hydrated. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Get myself kind of prepped up for the day as far as that. But
perfect.
no, really, you know, I might even do a couple of stretches, kind of get my body awake, you know.
Apparently, you play
Yeah.
Sandstorm, which is like #1 hype song. I'm going to try that on
Yeah,
Monday.
that's
Um,
That's something that we do in the chat. We play. Sometimes we do. Well, we do the Rocky soundtrack. Sometimes we do
I love it.
Terminator. Get a little pumped up, you know, and
I
just
love
psyched
it.
up
I
for the
love it. I
day.
love it.
And you know, that's what you got to do. Got to always keep that positive mindset.
Got to keep it positive.
That's it.
All right. We had so much to talk about, and I'm sure we could talk for another 2 hours. So we may need to have you back on the show at some point.
Yeah, let's
But
do it.
I want to thank you for joining us, and I want to thank everyone from the Shark Tank who's here and raving about Sandstorm. I am going to try that on Monday. So
Yeah, there you go.
thank you. This is a great
All right.
conversation. We'll have you on
Thanks
again.
for having me. Yeah, it was great.
Appreciate
Thank you. All right. Bye bye.
it. Bye. Everybody else who is still tuned in, this was an awesome convo. I loved focusing on mindset. If you're still here, hit the like button and leave me a comment in the YouTube section, the YouTube comment section. I want to know what kind of topics you want covered in the future, what you liked about this show, what kind of guests you want to see. I want to hear more from you guys. This has been an awesome one. Loved having Shark on here, and I will see you guys next week.